Greetings respected viewers, this is George from Ireland, and in this video I'm going to be continuing my series about the Northern Irish Troubles. I left off in August 1971. Internment had been introduced in Northern Ireland. The Republic of Ireland refused to cooperate with this because relations between Belfast and Dublin were so bad. Indeed, I could say London and Dublin. So almost everyone in the Republic of Ireland was a nationalist of some stripe or other. They concurred with the goals, if not the objectives, of the IRA, insofar as they mostly wanted the 6 counties of Northern Ireland to integrate into the Republic of Ireland. So killings rose dramatically after August 1971. Proof of it were needed that most of the key IRA men were not taken out by internment, and indeed the loyalist terrorists too. So there were almost daily confrontations between the army and Republican youths who were throwing stones at them, and the army almost never responded with bullets. They would be they had batons. Occasionally they would fire off tear gas, things like that. People wearing bandanas to try and reduce how much tear gas they'd be breathing in. Petrol bombs indeed thrown at the soldiers, which obviously can kill people. And the army didn't shoot back at those who were throwing Molotov cocktails at them, so showed very considerable restraint. So there'd be a wall of shields, and most soldiers would be there in boots, but some of them behind would be in trainers, so the shield wall would open, and some soldiers and trainers would be able to dash out as a snatch squad to try and grab those who've been throwing Molotov cocktails and so forth, charged with riotous affray. This is going on in Derry on a daily basis, and the British Army called the young men who were doing this the Derry Young Hooligans. They're difficult to identify. Often they're wearing bandanas, as I said. So the army would then go to the unemployment office, because unemployment was very high in Northern Ireland, particularly in the western part of the country, and especially amongst the Catholic community. And soldiers would try to recognise those young men who'd been stoning them the day before and identify some suspects and arrest them. But many people in Derry said that the army was arresting young men at the benefits office more or less at random when these men were there to collect their dole money. So internment was condemned across the board by the nationalist community. The MP for Derry went on strike. That's John Hume, hunger strike outside Downing Street. It was only for a few days. There was no suggestion he was going to starve himself to death. Quite a few of his constituents had been imprisoned without trial. The SDLP then boycotted the local council elections with a certain want of logic, so the Unionists won unopposed. The SDLP had got into politics. One of their main gripes had been that there wasn't enough nationalist representation in local government. Carrying on from this. Well, into 1972. There were daily clashes, as I say. The UVF was killing Catholic civilians. The IRA was targeting the army and the RUC as much as possible. So there was an anti-internment demonstration in Derry on the 30th of January 1972. It had been banned. It went ahead anyway. Feeling was running very high. The city was very tense because 2 RUC officers had been shot dead 2 days earlier. So this is probably the best known incident of the whole Troubles. It's been exhaustively examined for 12 years. There was a multi-million-pound investigation into this. It's the incident which is widely known as Bloody Sunday, when soldiers of the Parachute Regiment shot, I think it's 27 people, 14 of whom died. So no more need to go on about what actually happened. Elsewhere you can find every jot and tittle of what happened. Anyway, it enraged nationalist opinion in Ireland, and indeed nationalist sympathisers in the United States, and so on. Some soldiers had opened fire. They'd been ordered not to fire. Some continued firing for several minutes after that. The IRA opened fire on the Paras. Might have been just one shot. The echoing of that from the walls of Derry might have created the impression there was more than one shot, and so on. At this point, the Civil Rights Association called for Northern Ireland to join the Irish Republic. NICRA had officially been neutral on that question. Actually, it showed its true colours because people had NICRA demonstrations had paraded with the Irish tricolour quite a lot. And NICRA then resolved itself. Thing is, NICRA, of their 5 demands, 4 of them had already been accomplished, so in some senses, highly successful. So many unionists said this shows that NICRA was really an IRA front organisation all along, and they duped some decent people into joining it. Bill Craig felt he'd been vindicated because he banned one of the tendentious Niagara marches in the walls of Derry, within the walls of Derry, way back in, I think it's 1968. Anyway, Martin McGuinness, he was second in command of the IRA in Derry at that time, in 1972. He was only 21 years old at the time. Right, so let me see. Bill Craig, at this point, who was a hard man of loyalism, said that the Bogside of Derry ought to be given to the Republic of Ireland because almost nobody there wanted to be part of the UK. There was high unemployment. It was costing the UK to pay these people their benefits, and that was that. Might have been a good suggestion. I don't think many people of Derry would have objected to that. But the Republic of Ireland, well, we're one of the poorest countries in Western Europe, so it would have been even more of a financial burden for us to pay for our compatriots in Derry. Incidentally, Unionists tend to call Derry London Derry. You should read Maria Maguire's memoir, A Year with the IRA, To Take Arms. That's a bit of autobiography but for her. And she said that people like her objected to the way O'Neill and the like said Londonderry. They would overemphasise the London, and the Derry word would be scarcely audible, say it like Londonderry. So nationalists tend to go by its historic name, Derry, which is derived from the Irish Dora, as in oak wood. So it was claimed by the UK government that those shot dead on Bloody Sunday had been carrying nail bombs or paraffin was found on their hands. That's been discredited. One of them had earlier thrown a nail bomb, and one of them's name of Fiann was a member of Fianna Éireann, as in the IRA's Boy Scout movement. He was 17. But they weren't shot dead because they were either handling nail bombs, had handled it earlier, or had been in the IRA youth wing. John Hume allegedly said, now it's the United Ireland are nothing, but he claimed that that's bogus. He never made such a statement. So a huge mob gathered outside the British Embassy in Dublin, wanting to torch it. The guards tried to hold them back. The Garda Síochána couldn't, and indeed it was burnt down. So much for diplomatic immunity. Bernadette Devlin, the People's Democracy MP in Parliament, she went and slapped the Home Secretary Reginald Maudling and pulled his hair, and she said, he shot my people in the back. Remember Bernadette Devlin, she was an MP for Mid-Ulster. She's a Republican socialist. However, her party was called People's Democracy. It soon disappeared. Anyway, so the Irish government said the immediate withdrawal of the British Army was necessary. The Provisional IRA said their response would be to kill as many British soldiers as possible. The official IRA set off a bomb at barracks in Aldershot, England. They killed 6 cleaning ladies and a Catholic priest. An English Catholic priest was convicted of planting bombs elsewhere in England at the time because he was convinced by the IRA's cause. Ranger William Best was a Derry man and Catholic, and he came back to the Bogside. He was on leave from the British Army, and he was shot dead by the official IRA because they said any British soldier is fair game. Hundreds of Derry women went to protest at the official Sinn Féin's offices, and they felt this was unacceptable. This young man should not have been killed. He was a local boy. So some loyalists felt that not enough Catholic civilians had been killed on Bloody Sunday. The Derry coroner, who was himself a Protestant, said that it was sheer bloody murder what had gone on. Anyway, the UK government commissioned a report. Edward Heath, Conservative Prime Minister, he spoke to Lord Widgery, the judge, and he said, remember, we're fighting a military as well as a propaganda war. Anyway, so an Irishman who was a former British soldier returned his medals in protest at what had happened. So the Widgery Commission, they met in Coleraine because it was fairly close by, but not in Derry itself. There wasn't much law and order in Derry at the time, and they heard from various eyewitnesses. There were all sorts of written depositions, and that went on for a few months. Now, quite a few people who were involved in the incident, Derry people, didn't want to take part. They felt it might well be a whitewash, which they didn't wish to legitimise, but the Catholic clergy sometimes persuaded them to do so. So the Widgery report largely put the blame on the demonstrators for going ahead with an illegal protest. And indeed, the soldiers had been stoned. Leading up to this, they'd been provoked, and that's it. He said the firing at some points bordered on reckless. So that was it. It was rejected by nationalist opinion as being bogus, as just being an attempt to exonerate the security forces. Michael Jackson, one of the parachute regiment officers, he claimed for years that they had come out under fire. Over 30 years later, he changed his tune and said that wasn't the case. So in March 1972, just over a month after the killings, Edward Heath, the Prime Minister, he prorogued the Parliament of Northern Ireland for a year. The ideas would come back in 1973. Westminster was felt to be more impartial, more objective than the heavily unionist Stormont Parliament. Brian Faulkner was the last Prime Minister of Northern Ireland. He complained bitterly that he was powerless to stop this because, of course, the Northern Ireland government was devolved. Westminster had the legal right to close it down at any time. Right, that's enough for the moment with the reaction to Bloody Sunday.